It was a chilly autumn night when Penny first felt the world shift beneath her tiny paws. The sound of car tires crunching over gravel had long faded into the distance, and the soft glow from the pet store's sign flickered uncertainly, casting long shadows over the sidewalk. She was in a cage, small, cramped, and unfamiliar, left just beside the employee entrance of the Paws and Whiskers pet supply store. The shop had closed hours ago, and the only company Penny had was the rustling leaves blown by the wind and the occasional honk from distant traffic. She didn't understand why everything was so different. Only yesterday, she'd been nestled in her enclosure in the corner of a bright kitchen, her food dish full and her water bottle bubbling contentedly when she took a sip. A little boy named Liam used to crouch beside her and feed her carrot sticks while whispering stories about his school day. Penny liked those moments. She liked the warm hands and soft voices. But something had changed. The past few days had been quiet. Her cage hadn't been cleaned. The food came late, or not at all. Liam no longer visited. Then, earlier that evening, unfamiliar hands had lifted her cage, carried her into a car, and now, this. Penny squeaked softly. The cold metal bars of the cage pressed against her fur as she huddled into a ball. She didn't know where she was. She didn't know why she was there. But the dark had always frightened her, and the night seemed very, very long. The next morning, just as the sun began to rise, someone discovered her. "Whoa, hey, what's this?" came a voice. A young woman in a navy blue hoodie crouched beside Penny's cage. Her name was Tasha, an employee at Paws and Whiskers, and this was not the first time she'd found an animal left behind like this. But it still broke her heart every time. "A guinea pig?" she murmured, looking closer. "Oh, sweetheart, what are you doing out here all night?" Penny lifted her head slowly. The soft tone in the woman's voice made her inch forward slightly, her tiny nose twitching. She could still smell Liam on her fur, and something deep inside hoped this person might bring her back to him. Tasha opened the cage door gently and reached in. Penny didn't run. She let herself be scooped up, and for a moment, she felt the warmth of human hands again. "You poor baby. You must be freezing," Tasha said softly, wrapping Penny in the hem of her hoodie and holding her close. "Let's get you inside." Inside the pet store, it was bright and filled with the comforting smells of hay, food pellets, and bedding. Tasha settled Penny into a clean enclosure behind the front desk, filled with soft shavings and a fresh water bottle. She scribbled a note on a post-it and stuck it to the cage. "Found outside this morning. No name. Seems healthy. Very sweet." As customers came and went that day, Penny stayed hidden in her bedding, watching the world from behind soft hay. Some people peeked in, cooed at her, or pointed her out to their children. But no one asked to take her home. Later that evening, Tasha crouched beside the cage again. "Hey, little one. I made some calls today. There's a small animal rescue not far from here. They've got a foster family who takes in guinea pigs. They said they'll come pick you up tomorrow morning." Penny didn't understand the words, but she recognized the kindness in them. The next morning, Penny met someone new, a middle-aged woman named Greta with warm eyes and a voice like soft velvet. She wore a sweater with tiny paw prints on it and carried a pink travel crate lined with fleece. Tasha handed Penny over carefully, and the little guinea pig nestled into the soft fabric as the crate door clicked shut. "She doesn't have a name," Tasha said. Greta looked down into the crate. "Then we'll call her Penny," she said, smiling. "She looks like a lucky penny someone found on the sidewalk. Small, quiet, and full of hope." The drive to Penny's new temporary home was quiet and smooth. She was still nervous, her heart thudding in her chest every time the car turned or a horn honked. But Greta kept talking to her in a calm voice, and the rhythmic motion of the ride began to lull her. When they arrived, Penny was brought into a small house that smelled of lavender, wood shavings, and fresh vegetables. Greta's home was filled with love. Penny could feel it the moment she was set down in her new enclosure. The walls were painted warm colors, and in the next room, other guinea pigs chattered and squeaked. Penny didn't squeak back, not yet. She was still too unsure. She buried herself in the fleece blanket Greta had laid out and watched through the side of her cage. Over the next few days, Penny settled into a quiet routine. Greta gave her fresh greens every morning and always spoke to her with a kind tone. "Morning, Penny. Did you sleep well?" she asked. setting down a dish of kale and cucumber. Penny would edge forward, slowly but steadily, until she dared take food from Greta's fingers. Penny was placed in a room with 2 other foster guinea pigs, both younger, more energetic boys named Cheddar and Buttons. They were separated by a mesh barrier, but they liked to chat with her through it. "Hey, you're the new girl," Cheddar squeaked one afternoon. "I heard you got left outside a store. That's rough." "Don't worry," Buttons added. "Greta's the best. You'll get fat and happy here." Penny didn't say much. She was still learning to trust again. But little by little, she began to emerge from her shell. She started popcorning, tiny joyful hops that guinea pigs do when they're happy. She weeked in delight when Greta entered the room in the evenings, and one day, she even purred softly when Greta scratched behind her ears. Weeks passed, and Penny grew stronger. Her coat became shinier, her eyes brighter. She watched as some of the other guinea pigs got adopted and taken to their forever homes. Each time one left, Penny would sit quietly and wonder if she would ever have someone who whispered stories to her again. Someone who would love her, not just for a while, but always. Then, one rainy afternoon, everything changed. Greta opened the door with a cheerful voice. "Penny, we've got a visitor today. Someone special who asked about you." Penny stood still, heart thumping. A girl, around 12 years old, stepped into the room. She had long auburn hair, freckles, and wore a hoodie with guinea pigs printed on it. She carried a notebook filled with drawings of guinea pigs. Dozens of them, in all shapes and colors. Her name was Lila. She crouched beside Penny's cage, eyes wide and sparkling. "She's perfect," she whispered. Penny blinked. Lila gently offered a small sliver of apple through the bars. Penny sniffed it, hesitated, and took it, then did something she hadn't done in months. She weaked. Lila laughed. "Hi, Penny. I hope you like drawing time, because I sketch guinea pigs every day. And I've saved the center page for you." Greta beamed. "Looks like it's a match." But adoption wasn't tea instant. There were forms to fill, a home check to do, and time to prepare. Penny didn't know what was coming yet, but something in the way Lila looked at her, like she was the only guinea pig in the world, made her feel special. Maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Maybe this time, she was going home. Rain drummed softly on the windows the day Greta carried Penny's travel crate to the front porch. A small car waited in the driveway, the engine running and windshield wipers swiping back and forth like clockwork. Lila stood beside the car, her hoodie damp and her eyes full of excitement. "You have everything?" Greta asked gently. Lila nodded so hard her curls bounced. "Yes. The cage is set up, and I have a snuggle sack, fleece liners, hay, pellets, and veggies, and I cleaned my room 3 times." Greta chuckled and handed over the crate. "Penny's a sweet girl. She's shy, but once she trusts you, she's full of love. Just be patient." "I will," Lila promised, peeking into the crate. "We're gonna be best friends." Penny shifted nervously inside the fleece-lined crate, her little paws curled beneath her. She could smell the outside air, the damp scent of earth and pavement. She didn't know what was happening, only that Greta was leaving her with someone new. And Penny had been left before. The ride was quiet, with soft music playing from the car's speakers. Lila hummed along to the tune and kept peeking at Penny with a hopeful smile. "I can't wait for you to see your new home," she said. "I decorated the walls with drawings of you." Penny didn't understand, but the girl's voice was soft like Greta's. Maybe even softer. When they arrived, Lila carried Penny carefully into a cozy little house filled with warm lights and the scent of baking bread. Her mother greeted her with a hug and crouched down to peer into the crate. "So this is Penny," she said with a smile. "Welcome, little one." Lila's room was small but full of personality. The cage was set up beside her bed, with soft pink fleece, tunnels, and even a tiny wooden hidey house shaped like a castle. The walls were covered in colorful drawings of guinea pigs, some wearing capes, others riding skateboards or sipping tea. "You'll sleep next to me every night," Lila said proudly. "And every Saturday is sketch and snack day. We'll both get snacks. Mine are cookies, but you'll get bell pepper and cucumber." She opened the crate and let Penny walk into the new enclosure on her own. Penny hesitated, sniffed the air, and slowly stepped out. The fleece was warm. The hay smelled fresh. She could hear Lila quietly humming as she sat cross-legged on the floor, sketching something in her notebook. Penny sniffed the corners, crawled into the hidey house, peeked back out, and didn't feel afraid. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was just passing through. The first few days were calm, quiet, and filled with discovery. Penny learned the sound of the fridge opening meant vegetables were coming. She learned Lila's footsteps, her voice, and the sound of pages flipping as she sketched. And Lila learned to read Penny's moods, how her ears twitched when she was happy, how she purred softly when stroked just right behind her ears. They spent evenings together with Penny curled in a fleece pouch on Lila's lap while she drew, occasionally showing her the sketches. "This one's you dressed like a detective," she'd say with a giggle. "You're solving the case of the missing carrot stick." Penny winked in response. Lila said that meant she approved. But not every moment was perfect. One stormy night, thunder rolled across the sky and lightning flashed at the window. Penny, startled, darted into the far corner of her cage and refused to come out, even for a slice of strawberry. Lila crouched beside her, worry creasing her face. "It's okay, Penny," she whispered, turning off the overhead light and wrapping a blanket around the cage to soften the flashes. "You're safe now. I'm right here." She lay on the floor beside the cage until the storm passed. And Penny remembered. She remembered Liam's absence, the cold sidewalk, the lonely night outside the store. The memories still lived inside her, buried under fleece and quiet moments. But with each new day in Lila's room, those memories began to fade. A few weeks later, something new arrived. Surprise. Lila grinned one afternoon, holding a small cardboard box in her arms. Penny peeked up from her hidey house. Inside the box was a collection of handcrafted items, mini pillows, a tiny hammock, and a soft tunnel shaped like a watermelon. Lila carefully placed them inside the enclosure, rearranging things so Penny had more places to hide, play, and nap. "I made these for you in home EC class," Lila said proudly. "Do you like them?" Penny explored the hammock first, sniffed it, walked under it, then tried to climb into it and immediately rolled out the other side. Lila burst out laughing. Okay, we'll work on your balance." Penny squeaked, not in frustration, but in joy. Their bond deepened. Penny began to greet Lila with excited weeks every morning, circling her cage when the sound of chopping vegetables drifted in from the kitchen. She learned to take treats from Lila's palm, and even let herself be brushed gently with a soft toothbrush, a ritual Lila called spa time. But what Penny loved most was bedtime. Every night, Lila would dim the lights, climb into bed, and read out loud, sometimes stories, sometimes poems, and sometimes just her own thoughts. And today in school, she said one night, we had to pick a hero. Some kids picked superheroes or scientists. I picked you. Penny blinked up from her snuggle sack. You've been through so much. But you still trust. You still squeak and purr and cuddle. That makes you brave, Penny. The guinea pig made a soft, contented rumble. The months passed gently. Penny's fur grew glossy, and her eyes sparkled. Her past became something distant, something that no longer defined her. Then one day, Lila came home with news. There's going to be a small animal show next weekend, she said excitedly. Not for prizes or anything, it's more like a parade. People dress up their pets in costumes, and everyone claps and takes photos. I think you'd love it. Penny wasn't sure about that. The day of the event arrived, and Lila dressed Penny in a handmade bumblebee costume, complete with tiny wings and a felt antenna headband. She rode in a decorated stroller lined with hay, nibbling on a carrot as Lila wheeled her through the park. Children pointed and giggled. Grown-ups smiled and took pictures. Penny, surprisingly, didn't hide or tremble. She rode with her head held high, basking in the admiration. She's so calm, one woman remarked. She must really trust her human, another said. Lila beamed. She's not just my pet. She's my best friend. That night, as Penny settled back into her cage, exhausted but happy, Lila whispered from her bed. Do you remember the first time I met you, Penny? You were so quiet. I didn't know if you'd ever come out of your shell. But you did. You're brave. You're beautiful. And I love you so much. Penny wept softly. Outside, the stars glittered in the sky, no longer cold or lonely. This time, Penny was warm, safe, and loved. And this time, she was home. Spring melted into summer, and the days in Lila's home grew longer, warmer, and filled with the soft hum of fans and the scent of sun-dried laundry. Penny, now fully adjusted to her new life, had blossomed into a lively, curious guinea pig with a sweet personality and a heart that trusted again. Each morning began with a gentle squeak from her cage, followed by the soft patter of Lila's bare feet on the hardwood floor. "Good morning, Penny," she'd chirp, still in her pajamas. "Today's breakfast is cucumber, apple slivers, and parsley." Penny would rise from her hammock, stretch her legs, and begin her morning parade, trotting laps around the cage while Lila giggled and prepared the feast. Penny's happiness was visible in every part of her shiny coat, her bright eyes, the way she popcorned, those sudden, joyful jumps guinea pigs do when they're excited, whenever Lila entered the room. She no longer flinched at loud noises or hid from new things. Instead, she explored, squeaked, and even learned a trick or two. "Penny, spin," Lila would say, holding a slice of carrot. Penny would turn in a perfect circle, nose in the air, waiting for her treat. It wasn't magic, it was trust. Patience. Love. One lazy Saturday, Lila sat cross-legged on the rug, pencil in hand, sketchbook open across her knees. Penny lounged in her lap, half dozing while being gently brushed. "I'm going to draw us today," Lila said softly. "But not like a normal drawing. I want it to be a memory." She sketched for hours, pausing only when Penny dozed off entirely, belly rising and falling like a slow tide. The drawing showed Lila and Penny sitting under a tree, Penny wearing her little bee costume and Lila smiling down at her. "I think I'll frame this one," she whispered. That evening, Lila hung the picture above Penny's cage, right where it could be seen from both the bed and the floor. Penny winked as if to say she approved. But as the weeks went by, something else began to happen. One morning, Lila woke up and noticed Penny hadn't come out to greet her. She was still curled in her hidey house, eyes open, but quieter than usual. "Maybe she's just sleepy," Lila said aloud, but there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. She kept a close watch over the next few days. Penny still ate her veggies and sipped water, but she moved slower, slept more, and didn't popcorn as much. Lila sat beside her cage for longer stretches, reading her favorite books and softly stroking Penny's fur through the bars. "I think you're just getting older," she whispered one night. "But no matter what, I'm here. I'll always be here." They visited the vet, who confirmed what Lila already suspected: Penny was aging. She was healthy for now, but guinea pigs didn't live forever. Lila cried quietly in the car on the way home, Penny nestled in her lap. She wasn't ready to let go of the friend who'd taught her so much about gentleness, about resilience, about love. But Penny, curled calmly in her snuggle pouch, was content. She had lived a life that began with fear and uncertainty, but had blossomed into joy, safety, and affection beyond what she ever imagined in her little heart. That summer, Lila made every moment count. She created a memory journal just for Penny, filling it with photos, sketches, and notes like, "Today we shared a strawberry. I ate the top. Penny devoured the rest." She squeaked at the mailman again. "He said she's the most opinionated guinea pig he's ever met. I think she likes Mozart." Fell asleep on my lap during the piano solo. They spent afternoons in the backyard under a sun umbrella, Penny safely in a travel pen with soft grass under her paws. Lila would lie nearby, sketching in her book or reading aloud from her favorite stories. "I used to think you were just a pet," she said once, smiling as Penny munched a dandelion leaf. "But you're more than that. You made me braver, kinder. You're my heart, Penny." One night, long after the fireflies had winked out and the house was still, Penny passed quietly in her sleep. There was no struggle, no sound, just the hush of a soul slipping peacefully from a life well lived. Lila found her in the morning, curled in the hammock she'd once toppled out of as a baby. Her hands trembled as she lifted her, tears already streaking down her cheeks. She didn't go to school that day. Instead, she wrapped Penny in soft fleece, placed her gently in a box lined with petals from the garden, and buried her beneath the old oak tree where they'd once sat together. She marked the spot with a hand-painted stone that read, "Penny, the bravest heart, forever loved." Weeks passed, and the ache of loss stayed with Lila, soft but present. Her room felt quieter. Her morning routine was empty without the joyful weeks and the patter of tiny feet. But the picture above the cage, Lila and Penny beneath the tree, remained. So did the journal, the fleece, the snuggle pouch, and the memories that time could never erase. Then, one morning, Lila returned home from school holding a small bundle in her arms. A new guinea pig. She wasn't replacing Penny, no one could. But she was opening her heart again, the way Penny once taught her. "This is Clover," Lila said softly, kneeling before the same cage. "And I hope you don't mind, Penny, but I think she's going to love it here too." As Clover explored the enclosure, Lila sat back, smiling. A new story was just beginning. But Penny's would never end. Because somewhere in the quiet corners of Lila's heart, among the sketches, the whispered bedtime stories, and the memories of a gentle, brave guinea pig, Penny would always live on.